You need a great opener, like somehow we're adults. Do.
We can record that right
some
now.
Some kind of like.
We can record that right now.
Everybody be quiet.
Somehow we're adults.
It's a little nerve-wracking at first.
Are we live? Are we on?
I mean, you're being recorded right now, but we don't normally like go 1, 2, 3 and then hit record. Like that's the hard stop. We start recording and then we just kind of just talk, and as it comes out, it comes out. But Colton, we'd notice if we did it the other way, if we were like 3, 2, 1, go, it was like you'd be like hella nervous, right?
Right.
And so we just stopped doing it. We're like, we'll just hit record, and when it feels like the podcast started, we'll edit that in. You know what I mean? We'll just start it when it starts. But yeah, it'll become effortless. At first, you're probably like, I can feel it right now. There's like a little bit of like nervousness to it.
I'm just taking it all in. I'm not super nervous.
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
It's a pretty cool setup you got here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It took, like I said, building a mountain out of paint, one layer at a time. So I started out, the first podcast I did was, it was on a dining room table, and I had my Mac, and I literally just like hit record on like the microphones that are built into the computer, and then I just kind of like faced them towards me and my other two buddies. It was like, we were just talking. I mean, I don't know. It was awful. But then I was like, okay, so we needed to get microphones, and you just build it up. You realize what the biggest things are you need to address first, and you just do that and do that and do that. It's like, I think the next thing that I'll probably do for the podcast is I really want to get another camera, so that way I can do like, I can have one camera on you, one camera on me, and then it would basically like be switching back. Like we have somebody who runs a video switcher and run the video switcher back and forth. So you talk, it goes to you. I talk, it comes to me.
So you're going to have to hire staff too.
Well, Colton normally helps me with this too.
Oh, okay.
Like this is abnormal that he's not here. I mean, he's been absent for, some of them, but majority of them he's here. And it's 2 buttons. So like if I'm sitting here talking with you, I could literally just like have my fingers on the buttons. It's not that hard. The hard part is doing like what Joe Rogan's guy does. I mean, he literally like switches. I mean, it'd basically be like sitting here with these fingers on these 2 buttons. I talk, I hit this one. You talk, I hit that one, kind of thing. And I mean, the hard part is like Googling stuff as we're talking. Like if I'm like, hey, can you bring up da-da-da-da-da and show Nick this video that I saw? That's the stuff that's a little bit more difficult.
Would you ever get to that point? You pull out your laptop and like
he normally does.
Interactive.
That's what this is. Okay. We've done UFC ones where we're like, where Colton couldn't be there, and I literally had that plugged into my phone, and I'm going through like, and we just screen mirror it to the TV, and we both, me and my buddy Dylan, we love doing these UFC podcasts where we just sit here and talk shit about UFC and talk about past fights, future fights, and stuff like that. And
I watched your fantasy draft one.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was actually one of the ones where we were like looking at like future fights and fighters and stuff. I mean, I was literally doing it on my phone.
That's cool.
So it's a good time.
Yeah.
Now, but your version of that, completely different than my version of it, because you run your freedom.
Yeah, man, look at that. It's like
I should have changed my shirt. I should have worn my freedom shirt.
One of the dads at the school like brought this shirt in once, and I was like, "Oh, did you have that made like for us?" He's like, "No, I just bought it at Under Armour."
Yeah.
I was like, "No way." So I looked into it. I was like, "Amanda, I know what I want for Christmas."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, all right, whatever." And I was like, "So, what's my Christmas gift this year?" She's like, "Oh, nothing." I was like, "Yeah, right. I already know what you got me."
Yeah. So you run Freedom Martial Arts.
Yep.
Talk to me more about that. Tell me about, first of all, let's talk about you. I'm going to interview you first. So
Okay.
How did you get involved in martial arts?
Sure. So I got involved in martial arts when I was 4 years old. I told my parents I wanted to become a Power Ranger. So they're like, all right, we'll put them in an activity. And it was in the basement of a YMCA in Cleveland, Ohio. They put me in, and they're like, yeah, when he gets tired of it, just like any other kid's activity, we'll pull him out. And I never really got tired of it, so I did that for a little while. When I was 7 years old.
That was Taekwondo?
No, that was like karate, traditional karate.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And actually, my first instructor ever, that guy at the basement of the YMCA, I'm still connected with him. Friends with him on Facebook, so it's cool to have that connection with him, and he follows me in my journey and what I do. But then when I was 7, I found this ATA school under Senior Master Gehring.
Can you explain what ATA is for people who might not know?
ATA, was the American Taekwondo Association, Always Take Action Martial Arts. So it's a huge organization. They have over 1,000 schools in the world, all over the globe. So it's a really cool national transfer network, right? So for example, if you train for so many years and then you take a break, right? Like a lot of kids, they get up to a certain rank and then they go off to college, right? So they take a few years off, and then as life goes on, they get married, they have kids, they get their kids involved. They're like, you know what? I want to come back to it too. We can punch in their ATA number and we can see all of their history. So they can come back at any rank that they left off at, or if they transfer from one state to another state for a job or whatever it is, they can transfer to another school, which has actually happened at our school. We've had a few people transfer in since we've started. So it's just a really cool national transfer network. But the ATA is a big organization. Started with them when I was 7. I was actually one of the first students there at my instructor's school. I remember when I walked in, the one guy was painting the walls, and the other guy did the introductory lesson with me. They had one mat. It was like a 3-foot by 6-foot mat. He stood on the mat with me. We did like 2 moves. We did like a block and a kick, and he told us, he's like, hey, we're building the school, we're building the business. We're not ready to run classes yet, but if you want to sign up, you can sign up, and we're going to start running classes in about a month. So my mom signed me up, and my very first day of classes, I was like 7 years old at this point. So my little kid's brain didn't really connect the two. When I walked in for the first day of classes, I was like tugging on my mom's shirt. I was like, hey, Mom, the painter is here. The painter guy is here. I thought it was really weird, right? Like I didn't understand that was the instructor. Like he was just building the business. So for my first few months of training, Master Ate, I thought he was a painter, and it was just really weird. He was there teaching classes too. But now that I'm older, I understand they were just building the business, right? Yeah. But yeah, so started when I was 4, started ATA martial arts when I was 7. Throughout my teenage years, got really into competition, traveling, and I think that's what kept me in it for all these years. Started running my own school when I was 15. Had an opportunity to move down to Florida when I was 21 or 22. So took that opportunity, ran a business in Orlando for about the last 7 years, and we opened Freedom Martial Arts about a year ago, and it's been great. It's been a really cool journey.
Yeah. What has been your favorite takeaway from martial arts? Or are you just enjoying every bit of the journey?
It's fun. I enjoy training. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy learning more, being a student myself. When you say my biggest takeaway, what do you mean? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
If you could explain to somebody who's never done martial arts, the biggest benefit in doing martial arts, would it be community? Would it be the self-confidence? Would it be a multitude of factors? The one thing that somebody who might not have this, is it confidence? Is it, community? Is somebody's, people start martial arts because they're lacking in something that they believe martial arts provides, right?
Yeah.
For me, I felt like I was lacking in, not self-discipline. That's not the right words for it, but the achievement aspect of, I never got a black belt. And when I was in karate growing up and I got all the way to a brown belt, and a brown belt in karate is very similar to a brown belt in other martial arts, but it was, that was the next belt for me was black, and I left. And I knew when I left, you feel like once you're a brown belt forever. And it's no, that was I almost was then. If I started now, I'd be a white belt again in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I think that I was wow, I was so close and I gave up, and nothing, it pisses me off kind of thing. And, I can just imagine that for a lot of people, they want something that martial arts provides, and I just everyone for different reasons might choose a martial art for a specific reason. Maybe it's I feel like it's probably the confidence reason. They want to build confidence in something they know they lack that confidence in, and then they get other stuff along the way that they weren't expecting. The friendship, the community, the discipline, the checking your ego at the door kind of thing. So
Yeah, it could definitely be a humbling sport. Right?
Yeah.
When you think you got the skill down, and then
Yeah.
you get kicked in the face, and you're like, all right, no, I don't have that.
Yeah.
Or when you're doing jujitsu, right? You think you got it down, and then all of a sudden you're in a choke, and you're like, all right, well, never mind. That plan
Right.
didn't work.
right.
But remind me again, what was the question?
So what was your biggest takeaway from martial arts?
My biggest takeaway is definitely the mindset, and that's just my experience, right? Maybe other people have different experiences, but when we enroll new students at the school, there's two main reasons why people enroll for their kids or themselves. They're either looking for discipline or self-esteem, right? And that's exactly the reason why we named our business Freedom Martial Arts. Our mission statement is to create freedom of the mental limitations and to build confidence through the world of martial arts. I've had great coaches throughout my life, and one of the quotes that sticks with me is that competence builds confidence, right? And competence is like the know-how. So when you understand how to do something, you become more confident in yourself. You become more confident in that skill and how to do whatever that is. One of the things that I learned is that humans are afraid of one thing mostly. We're afraid of the unknown, right? So we're afraid of the unknown circumstances. We're afraid of the unknown outcomes. So when you go into a new skill, activity, you move to a new city, you start a new job, you go to a new school, whatever, there's unknown people, there's unknown outcomes, right? So that makes you very nervous. And the only way to get over those nerves is, like Nike said, just do it.
Right.
Right? Just go. Just do it. Because when you do those things, that gives you experience. Experience gives you knowledge, and knowledge gives you confidence, right?
Yeah. And this is something you teach like kids that.
Oh yeah, we start at a very.
There's a
young
reason
age.
people that might just be listening, they might not see in the video, but like you're like doing the motions that you teach the kids. You like point to your head when you're saying knowledge, and like you know what I mean. Like that's just so ingrained in who you are because you've been teaching it for so long too. It's like these things that you're moving your hands while you're saying the things and doing that because it's you're teaching kids to do these things. So
yeah, man. When you move your body, your brain remembers things better, right?
Yeah.
So even in class, right, if you come to our classes, you'll see in the kids' class, we don't just teach punches and kicks. We teach the life skills too. In each life skill, we have a hand motion that goes along with it, and hopefully these kids are applying not just what we're learning in class, but also in their everyday life at school, at home, and it's for adults too, right? It's not just for the kids. So when they go to their job, right, applying their self-esteem, applying anything that we learn at the school. So where I was going with that is, when you learn these things, when you have experience, you gain that self-esteem, right? So for me, my biggest takeaway with martial arts is the mindset. Sometimes things could be scary, right? Like when I opened the business, of course, that's a big risk, right? Like to get the lease on the building, I had to personally sign on that. So if the business didn't work out, like I was going to have to pay that rent every month. That's a lot of money in rent every month.
You pushed all the chips in on Nick.
Oh yeah, we went all in on this, right? Like my wife and I, we had a very long sit-down talk, and I was like, hey, this is my dream. This is what I've been doing for my whole life, martial arts, right? I want to open my own school. It's going to take a lot of capital, and we're going to have to sign for this personally. So it was a very long talk, right, about our personal finances and the risk. But going into it was very scary. But I just had that quote in the back of my mind: "If you build it, they will come." Right?
Yeah.
And I also had the quote in the back of my mind that competence builds confidence. Right? Like I didn't really know how. But I just did it anyways. I just went through with it, and I had that faith that it was going to happen.
That tenacity too of like there's the only way is through. Like we're just going to get through this problem. This isn't, that's problem solving. I mean, I essentially think that's what all businesses need is they need to have a problem solving aspect to it.
Yeah, I actually had this post on Facebook the other day. I'll pull it up.
Yeah,
I saw this quote. And it said, God never gives you a dream that matches your budget. He isn't checking your bank account. He's testing your faith, right? So like when I opened this business, I looked at the numbers and I was like, wow, that's a big number. And that made me nervous.
Yeah.
Because my own personal residence was on the line. Like I had to sign over my house, right? Like if this wasn't going to work, I was going to have to sell the house and pay that debt.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? He's not testing my bank account. He's testing my faith. And I
Yeah.
had confidence in who I was and what I teach in our program. It's a fantastic program
You have to have incredible personal confidence to start a business. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of what I was going off of. It's the confidence. Yeah, you have to have confidence with it. But I think even myself, like I was doubting my own outcomes or my own ability, but I trusted the faith. And again, like, it was very nerve-wracking. So I wouldn't say that I went forward with it with confidence, even though maybe that's how it came out, because that's how it has to come out, right? You have to be confident in yourself and in your product and your business and what you're doing. But behind that mask, I was very, very nervous.
What they don't, that nervousness, that like that confidence is how it shows itself to other people. Mm-hmm. But in those times, like, I mean, my first podcast, like I said, I was telling you about earlier, it was not anything to be excited about it. But the hardest part was like starting for me. I mean, that's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. The hardest part was just getting to that first class, because it's like you said, you're just it's the unknown. I mean, you really put it in a good term. Like, it's just not knowing how it's going to turn out is, I mean, you can scare yourself out of anything. The quote, that quote, what is it?
I got you. Fear will kill more dreams than failure ever will.
Yeah. Great quote. Yeah. Great quote. But that's why I have that quote up there that says, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. Because, pick something that you envy someone as being great as. Like if I see a great artist, like, maybe, is it the art, them being good at art, that I envy, or is it that they have a lot of money? And it's like, okay, well, if it's just them having a bunch of money and being able to do whatever you want, then you don't envy them as being artists. You envy them having, money, which that's a whole nother conversation. But I think that too many people don't have role models that they aspire to be like. Like, if I see somebody who's a great hunter, and I hunt and I want to be a great hunter one day, like, I have to be hunting to be a great hunter. And so, like, that's how I look at it. And it's like, you're not going to be a great hunter if you're just a gatherer. You know what I mean? That's a weird terminology to look at it as, but that's how I view it. It's like, you got to be doing the thing that you want to be great at. And for you were already doing the martial arts part of that. Like, that was probably the part you felt the greatest about getting into your business, if I was to just guess, would probably be the martial arts side of it. It's the running the business at the same time that was probably nerve-wracking for you. And like you said, putting it all on the line. Are people going to come to this thing? Am I going to make, be able to pay the bills? I mean, dude, I can only imagine the depressing moments you went through, the roller coaster of emotions that happened with going through what you did. And the Nick of a year ago was probably a much different Nick that I'm seeing now, because, I mean, even now, I'm sure you still have days where it's highs and lows, but, I mean, you probably are happy to be through the majority of it that you're through already.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a huge blessing. I'm very thankful for the people there, right, who started with us before the vision was a reality. So it's been an awesome journey. I started the business while I was still living in Orlando, right? So I tell people that we opened the school in Tampa because nobody really knows where Valrico is. Mm-hmm. But Tampa's close enough. Right. So it's about a 2-hour drive, right? Some days it's only an hour 35 minutes. Some days it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. Depends on how I-4 traffic is that day. But on average, it's about 2 hours away. So when I opened the business, it was definitely a commute. And I started running classes at a recreation center. So again, I kind of just had this faith that it was going to happen, right? Like, I got the building. We're actually only a few days away from our very, very first class 1 year ago, April 11th. Today's April 8th. April 11th, we taught our very first class at the Brandon Recreation Center on East Sadie Park. And I opened up and I told people, hey, we're opening a business. It's about 10 minutes south from here. It's going to be a beautiful location. And I showed them pictures of what we had and what we were going to build. And I said, just sign up with us now. And we're doing pre-enrollments. So I gave a little bit of a discount to do pre-enrollment, to start the student base so that on day one, when we opened our doors, we'd have some income. And just super grateful for the people who took that chance on us, right? Like, they were training with us at a recreation center with mats that I had to pull out each day. And it looked like a very, very shady operation. Right? Here's some guy who says, hey, listen,
let's do karate in the garage, bro.
Let's do karate in the garage, right? Like, come to the community center, do karate with me, and I promise you I'm going to open a business, but you have to sign on with us here, right? So it was super shady, but...
it only goes one of two ways.
Yeah. So anyways, these people trusted us, and I'm very grateful for that. And then we opened the door so April 11th was the first day I ran classes at that recreation center. June 6th was the first day we ran classes at our school. And classes at the recreation center actually got cut a little short. They gave me about a week notice. They said, hey, by the way, next week you cannot teach classes until after 6:30 p.m. And I was like, wait, hold on. I was like, I already have paying clients. Like, now you're telling me I have to change my class schedule on these people. I can't just switch class times like that. Like, that's not how this is going to work. So they're like, well, you can still run classes after 6:30, but just not before then, because we have our summer program coming in or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right. So I had to put it into overhaul. I was working overnight building the school. So I'd go there and I'd build it on my own. I brought all my tools from Orlando. I packed up my wife's SUV, and I was putting down the flooring. I was knocking down all the drywall, ripping up carpet, doing all the paint.
Because tell people what it was before it was a martial arts studio.
It was an after-school tutoring program, and the walls were every color you could imagine. They were purple, orange, red, pink, green.
And there was way more walls than there is now.
There was a lot of different individual offices for those little classrooms. They had like Party City carpet in there. It was, like with the balloons
showed me
and
pictures.
The streamers.
Yeah,
it was wild.
Yeah.
There was a stage in the back. There were cabinets on the wall. Anyway, so I had a lot of work to do. It took me about 6 weeks by myself. I did all of it myself. So I went in there with all my tools. I built it. And when they told me, like, hey, you got to be out of here next week, I put it in overhaul. I was working like 24 hours a day. I took a vlog, if you will. I have it on Snapchat, like all the videos, and I put timestamps on it of me being there at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m., just building this place. So April 11th, first class at the recreation center. June 6th was the first class that we opened our door at our facility. And honestly, the facility wasn't even ready. The first day of classes, I had half the floor with mats. None of the trim work was done. The doors were still missing, like a bunch of the interior doors. Half an hour before classes started that day, I was standing on the mat getting ready for the students, and I realized, oh crap, I don't even have chairs for the parents to sit in to watch class. So Walmart's right behind the school. Ran to Walmart, bought 20 chairs real quick, and then just put them out for those guys. So yeah, we weren't ready. But again,
there's no such thing as ready. If you waited for it to be perfect, you would have never started.
Yeah, you would never start. So that's another quote that I live by, right? Like, if you wait to be ready, it will never happen. Right. You just take action, do it, and you'll figure it out along the way. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that one of my good coaches taught me. He's like, just take action, just do it, and things will work out as you go. I used to be a big planner. I used to plan everything and then execute my plan. And one thing I learned in life is that plans change, right? And when you try to plan things out and things change, you spend all this time replanning and then planning again, and nothing ever gets done. Yeah. So you might as well just take action, and you'll figure it out all on the way. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I've done with my business, right? Some people might say, fly by the seat of your pants, but that's
that sounds a little fast and loose with it, but it's not totally that. I mean, the problem is like some people over plan. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to plan within reason and understand there's variability in how those plans are going to go through. And most people can't, that are like super planners. Like I'm guilty of being like a super planner, mm-hmm. and I'm kind of the kind of person that's like, ooh, there's an itinerary, like, you know what I mean? But there's those moments where it's like, oh, but this wasn't on the itinerary, but there's a coffee shop like right down the road from here. Like, we need to go hit that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to have that capacity to change things up. But in business, I'm assuming that's something you deal with all the time.
Yeah, every day you're putting out fires. Like, things come up, you just got to work around it, man. Yeah. Make it look natural.
It's just like a fight.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like a fight. You're not expecting that guy to throw that specific kick, and the next thing you know, you're like waking up on the ground.
You just roll with the punches.
So how old are you now? You're 30?
19.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay, that's right. You tell your students.
Yeah, I'm 19.
Dude, so for people that don't know, that might not have listened to you before, at the first belt ceremony you've done?
The one that we just had in March? No, that's our third belt ceremony now.
Well, at that one, you were like, because it was the first one for jujitsu.
Yes, that was the first BJJ belt ceremony we had at the school.
And you said something about how, like, you're 19 and there's all the kids from your Taekwondo classes there, and one kid goes, he's 30. That was a perfect moment. That
More
was so
sit-ups
funny.
for you in class.
Yeah, you're like, shut up, little kid.
I don't think I used the word shut up.
You could feel the power of the room said, shut up. I'm just kidding.
Did I have my dad face on?
You're like, whoa, hey, whoa. Yeah. Like, hey, stop that. It was funny. That was a funny moment. Dude, how hard is it dealing with like little kids? I'm assuming for you it's pretty natural because you've done it your whole life.
Yeah, I would say it's not hard for me because I've had the experience and again, good coaching, right? And like I've actually gone to classes and learned how to run a class, right? I've had certifications and all that. But if you're not trained, it'll definitely go off on its own tangent, right? Like,
It can humble you.
dude, these kids, they're hysterical. They're so cute. Like, for example, the tigers, the little 4 through 6 year olds, they'll raise their hand and they'll say the most off the wall stuff. And if you don't take control of that class, it'll just be mass chaos.
Right.
Like they'll tell you about the craziest things.
They need leadership.
Yeah, they'll tell you about a blue cat in a tree over the weekend or something. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So when you're running class, you have to keep it structured, right? And in a kind way, you have to say, hey, let's talk afterwards. Let's do the drill first, and you can tell me what you need to tell me later.
And then
right?
they just forget.
But you were asking how difficult it is to run those kids' classes. To me, it's not difficult. I really enjoy it. But for example, we had this little girl the other week in class. She raises her hand, and I was like, hold on. I was like, let me teach the drill, and then I'll address what you need in a little bit. So I gave the class the drill. I said, and go. And then I got down on one knee to address what she needed. And she goes, Master Myers, I just want to let you know you are so handsome and you have really nice hair. And I was like, oh, thank you. I was like, I really appreciate that compliment. But my wife was also there that day. She was only a few feet away. I said, I really appreciate that compliment, but I'm sorry, we can't be doing this because I'm married. And, the parents are right there. They can hear everything in class, and they were laughing and giggling.
Yeah.
Those kids, man, they're
That's
the
funny.
funniest.
Yeah. I'm sure there's no shortage of crazy blurt outs of things.
Oh, I've got great stories, the student stories.
Yeah, it's probably almost hard to remember all of them. There's probably ones that other people remember that they tell you about, and you're like, I don't remember that happening because it's probably so normalized to you hearing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
There's a few that stick out in my head that I'll always remember my favorite stories. Another one I'll share real quick.
You can share as many as you want, dude. We're not on a time
in
crunch.
Orlando, and we were running a family class. So we have all ages, all ranks in this class. It was a full class. We had about 40 people in that class. All the way in the back row on the far corner, we have the adults. So the dad was all the way in the back. We're doing nunchucks at this point in class. And his son, who's all the way in the front on the opposite corner, at one moment just stopped, and he was standing up tall in his set position, right? Feet together, hands on his side, chest out, chin up high, not moving. And the dad yells out, he goes, Henry, is everything okay? Like, did you hit yourself? With his nunchucks. And he turns around with this look on his face, like, mm-mm. So I walk around the floor, right? And not to, like, embarrass him in front of everybody, I wanted to check one-on-one, like, what was going on. And as I got closer, I noticed a puddle underneath his feet, right? So he pottied on the mats. And I got down on one knee pretty close to him. And I'm like, Henry, do you need to go to the restroom, sir? And without breaking discipline, he goes, no, sir, I already did, sir. So his discipline was on point, right? And I was like, all right, that was funny. And then I asked his mom, I was like, hey, Mrs. Brown, would you take Henry to the bathroom, please? Like, go fix your kid up, right? But
you gotta realize, like, as a little kid, like I don't know, it's kind of like I don't know, it's kind of cool. It's like that's his version of being like David Goggins, you know what I mean? It's
oh yeah,
like I'm super disciplined,
indomitable spirit. For
right,
sure.
right. That's funny. That's funny because it's like the kid way of showing like I'm not leaving, I'm staying right here.
Oh yeah, that kid was in it to win it,
dude. That's awesome, dude. Man, it's so hard to understand, like, as someone. Because I grew up doing martial arts, it's hard to like convey to people like that haven't done it before, like what it's like, because there's so many people that's abnormal too. They're like, oh yeah, like you're trying to be like Bruce Lee, like some karate kid kind of thing, and it's like,
Can
I don't
you
know,
chop this table in half.
right? Yeah, that's stupid shit. But the confidence that you get from doing a martial art, like I don't do the Taekwondo classes, but like I understand the discipline of like putting on a gi and like tying your belt and making sure your your uniform is, I mean, for lack of a better word, for your uniform and your attire is put together, and that someone else is going to be standing up there and is going to hold you accountable for your actions. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of parents out there that don't do the most perfect parenting job. But that's just the nature of that job, right? You're never gonna be perfect all the time because it's a 24/7 job. So it kind of, for like when I did martial arts, there was a lot of kids that were like troubled kids. You know what I mean? And it gave them like so a lot of people's answer to their kid having like ADHD is like, let's give them all the medications, to make it go away. And like other people's answer is like, well, it seems like you got a lot of energy. Seems like we need to put you in something that takes that energy away from you. And I don't know, martial arts is a great way to do that.
I think it's, you'd hit on the ADHD thing, right? Like I think in nowadays or in today's society, it's very quick to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Diagnosed, right? Like it's almost overdiagnosed. Like, oh, my kid's got ADHD. Well, so does that person's kid. Everybody's kid has it. But looking at ADHD aside, I think just people in general, you have to set goals, right? And the reason why martial arts is so good for kids with ADHD or without it, not just kids, adults too, is it's very good at setting goals, right? And actually, I just had a talk about this with my little brother. I was talking to him the other week on the phone, and I said, in martial arts, it's all about the mindset and everything, right? But how come some people in life, they are depressed, and some people seem to be go-getters, right? Like, what's the difference? And it's like a cycle, right? When you're depressed, you don't do anything for yourself, right? In life, you don't set goals, you don't achieve anything. So in turn, you become a little more depressed because nothing in your life is on the upswing, right? Nothing is looking positive. So because you're depressed, you become more depressed. And because you're more depressed, you don't do anything. And then because you don't do anything, you become more depressed. And it's this cycle, right? But the moment you set a goal for yourself, not just in martial arts, but in anything, when you have a very baby achievement, when you hit that thing, it's like a video game, right? When you reach the next level, you get this hit of like adrenaline, right? You get this dopamine in your brain, and you're like, hey, this feels good. And now you're motivated to go to the next level, right? Like in that video game. And then you want more, and then you want to achieve more, right? So
you get momentum.
You get this momentum, right? So when people bring their kids to us in martial arts and they say they have ADHD, I'm like, all right, here's our plan, right? We're going to set a goal for them. First goal, come to your first class, earn your white belt, right? Like one of the hardest belts to get in martial arts is not the black belt, it's the white belt, because you got to start, right?
That's the hardest one.
You don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great, right? So it's
most people do the starting part, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting over that fear and that, feeling awkward being on the mat. Just getting out there for your first class. That's how you get your white belt, right? But that's your first goal. Then after that, give me 5 classes. If you could do 5 classes, you're eligible for your first stripe. Now, if you could do that, 10 classes, you're eligible for the second stripe, right? So now they get in this pattern. They start setting goals. They're like, all right, I can get stripe by stripe. And then they start getting rank, and then they get belts, and then they get colors on their belt. And they're like, all right, this feels good. And you can start to see that confidence grow in them because they realize that they can set goals, and then once they set it, they can actually hit it, right? And when they have a good corner, right, they have good people in their corner, like their parents who make that commitment to get them to class, or their coaches who don't just give them the stripe but make them earn it, right? Like on the first stripe when they have to break the board, if they break it in like 5 tries, hey, that's cool, you did it in 6 tries last time, so you're making progress. But I'm not going to give it to you until you could do it in 3 tries, right? And when they finally get it, like you just see that switch in their head go off, and they gain that confidence. Yeah. And it's super cool to see when people set goals for themselves, that momentum grow. You see that self-esteem grow. You see that confidence grow. And you start to see that ADHD almost kind of disappear, right? Yeah. Because now they're focused on something. And,
I feel like ADHD is really just, it's a lack of focus in things that you don't want to focus on. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It's like selective hearing. Yeah. Like you select what you want to focus on.
Right. I mean, like if you made me, I'm trying to think, like if you wanted me to be a great writer, like I'm not saying I'm not good at writing, but like I have no desire to be a great writer. I have no value to it. I mean, I would like to be a good writer just in my mind, but I don't want Like, that's just not something I desire to be good at. So therefore I'm not going to, or science is one of those things. Like, I was never really good in science class. I would always like pass my science classes, but I just wasn't interested in it. So like in those classes, I'm ADHD, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, but you put me in math class and I'm going to ace all my math classes because I'm interested in that. And I mean, I think that the ADHD, like you said, I think it's over diagnosed, and it's just because kids have problems focusing on what other people want them to focus on because they don't want to focus on that.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment.
Yeah. You get the experience of it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you boil it down, you're like a teacher, but you're a voluntary teacher. You know what I mean? You're not like I teach second grade math, and if you live in this area, this is the second grade math everyone's getting. You know what I mean? Like, you're like one that...
Man, teachers are superheroes, man.
Yeah.
I saw a skit on YouTube once. You ever seen that skit of they're like talking about a teacher. They're like, hey, you need to teach these kids math. And the teacher's like, okay, do they want to learn math? And they're like, no, they don't want to learn. He's like, okay, well then how do I teach it? They're like, well, we don't know. That's up to you to figure out.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so they don't want to learn it, but I have to teach it to them. They're like, yeah, that's true. He's like, oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like we were saying earlier, goal setting, not just in martial arts, but in life, right? You got to set goals for yourself because what we were talking about earlier, like why do some people seem depressed in life and some people seem like they're go-getters? It's because they have a goal. I think goal gives humans hope, right? When you have hope towards something, you have something to reach for. And when you have something to reach for, you're motivated, you're driven, right? Like you wake up every morning with that purpose. You do things with the purpose. You walk with the purpose. You talk with the purpose. You get things done. And once you hit one goal, you're always seeming to reach towards the next one. So you have to have hope in life, and hope comes from goals, right? So set yourself a goal, and that'll make you, I guess, a driven person, and then you'll be a little more motivated, and then in your friends' eyes, in your family's eyes, in your own eyes, you'll be that kind of go-getter personality. Yeah. Instead of falling down the rabbit hole of being perpetually depressed, you'll be more motivated.
Yeah. I don't, it's hard for me to speak about like depression or anything like that. Cause like I have never, I mean, knock on wood, I mean, I've had depressed moments. I think that's a human emotion to experience, but I mean, all in all, I would say I'm the annoying go-getter kind of, positive attitude kind of person. Yeah. And, so it's hard for me to like understand the mindset of somebody who's not like that. So you might be right. I mean, I have no way of validating or, not validating that concern. I know that I feel at my best when I'm trying to get so much done that it feels like my life's in chaos. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
The times...
You don't know where to start. You have so much on the plate. Like, it's almost... You don't know which one to pick to start with.
Yeah. I mean, I think humans are designed to do tasks. We're designed to create. We're designed to do things. And the times that I feel the most depressed are the times when I'm doing the least amount. Like, when I got COVID... I was sick and I basically did nothing for like 3 days straight. And dude, I was like depressed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I literally like could just go outside and walk. And that would be, something. Just laying down and sitting down and doing nothing and being a couch potato is just like, some people live their lives that way. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that comment on like YouTube videos and stuff like that and talk shit. And it's like, you wish you could just, grab them and just be like, do something with your life. Stop focusing on other people's lives. Focus on your own. I don't know if you ever saw this. There was I don't know if it's a documentary or a TV show, and it was a YouTube video. Maybe it was a YouTube video. There's this guy. Yeah, you know what bodybuilder.com is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like a big I
have the app on my phone to track my workouts.
Right, it's like an online fitness forum kind of thing, right? Well, there was this guy. He was like a troll on the forum, right? And he was this overweight dude. I want to say he like his username was like something about like 600+ pound man or something like that. And his profile picture was like I forget what it was. It was something he was like the opposite of what you would want in a forum like that. And he was just a troll, and he just enjoyed being a troll. And like literally, I mean, that's a ton of fitness people, and fitness people have that mentality like what you're talking about now. And he would like get on there and just talk shit. And one of the times he was on there talking shit, and this is a person who could barely walk. And he would like talk about what he was gonna eat that night, and he's like, I'm gonna have like 15 chalupas or whatever, like these frozen things, and he just like he literally put out his like meal plan to like mess with the other people talking about like what their meal plans and stuff were, and somebody was like, hey man, like what if you just, instead of eating 13 chalupas, why don't you just eat 12? And like apparently that comment to that guy, he had never even considered just going like, hey, don't lose weight, don't take these drastic, don't just start drinking protein shakes and, you know, working out 7 times a week. Like, why don't you just change one little thing? Make his goal, you have to make obtainable goals.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened with that guy, is they literally like, hey, here's this obtainable goal, only eat, or instead of eating 13, have 12. And that night, that guy literally like ate 12 instead of 13. And it was like, all of a sudden, his momentum of life got halted and leaned the opposite direction, where his life was just going down negative, negative, negative. He's can't even bathe himself because he wouldn't fit in the shower. It's a great video to watch, because next thing you know, he's like, hey, I only ate 12. And they're like, great, man. Like, you know, and then it's like a slow trickle, like, you know, it's like trying to fill up a bucket one drop at a time. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot of time before you even get a puddle, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that guy, I think they were like telling him like, hey, can you exercise? And he's like, I can't even stand. Like it was just bad. And they're literally like, he's like, what? I can't even do a workout. Like, and he just immediately had this mental block in his mind. Like, I can't even work out. And they're literally like, somebody was like, just move around. And so he literally just like sat down and just like danced with his arms in the couch and just like moved his arms sporadically for like 3 minutes. And that was it. It was an entire workout. And he was doused it in sweat. Because, you know, that's a huge step for somebody who's 600 some pounds. Yeah. And then, long story short, that, you know, that snowball just keeps going in that direction, going in that direction, going in that direction. And now the dude, like, he's, I want to say he's like 220 pounds from like 600 pounds. And he's just got all this excess skin on him. And I think he has to have like a skin reduction surgery. But he's like a fit dude now. Wow. Like that's what you're saying, though, is like it's, I mean, it's the little things in life that compound, right? Mm-hmm. It's, you know, it's like, I don't know about you, but like I don't really drink soda, because like when I used to drink soda all the time, I was like 300 pounds, and I'd have to have like a soda every day, and it was like a crutch that I had. And then like if I was drinking soda, then it was easier to do other things that were unhealthy for me. And it's just, you know, all those things add up and compound, and like, but I feel like every aspect of life is like that. I know I'm getting long-winded, but long story short, you know, so many people, they let all these negative things compound into where it runs their life.
Yeah, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yeah,
you got to take that little step, just a mini step. You know, and I was talking about.
You pull the mic up a little bit closer.
Oh yeah, we talked about you know, helping people who might be in that depressed mindset. You know, I've seen friends or family members who get in that depression, and it's hard to pull them out, right? But just do something. Right?
Self-defeating.
Like you said, just that guy on the couch, just move around, right? Do something. And we talked about the goals. And another thing I've learned is SMART goals, right? Your goals have to be smart. They have to be
obtainable,
specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? So like if you have a goal to lose 50 pounds, you say, yeah, my goal is to lose 50 pounds. All right, well, cool. But if you don't put a timestamp on that, that's just known as a wish. And we know that wishes don't come true, right? So you have to say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in the next 5 months. Now we reverse engineer that goal, right? So 50 pounds over 5 months, that's 10 pounds a month. Can you do that? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do that, right?
Well, even if you fall short, that's 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They say, what's that other quote? If you
aim for the moon, and
aim for the moon, you'll hit the stars.
If you miss, you'll hit the star. Yeah. The old that one's real cheesy, but yeah. It's a good concept though.
Yeah, it's a good concept. But set goals, right? Make sure they're SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And now we have something to work with.
Yeah. Now, what's the most fulfilling part of of opening your own business? Is it the fact that you did it, or is it helping others?
I wouldn't say that I've done it yet, because we haven't even been there a year. Right?
Yeah.
So I haven't made it. I still have a lot of years before I retire. So no, I haven't made it. The most fulfilling part, I'd say, is just helping people, right? Like watching the kids when that switch goes off in their mind that they've achieved a goal, or they've hit a new skill, or they've reached a new level, right? Like I have this boy with me right now. He's got something going on. The left side of his body, he's got some kind of birth defect. Like he can't use his left side of his body the right way. So he's been doing private lessons with me, and he earned the first stripe on his white belt a few weeks ago for breaking the board. When he first started, he didn't think he was ever going to be able to do it. And like we talked about earlier, he finally did it in like 5 tries. And he was like, all right, Master Myers, I get my stripe, right? I was like, that was a great kick. You did break the board, but no, I'm not giving you your stripe. And you can kind of see it in his face, like he was
Pissed him
just
off.
defeated.
Yeah.
Pissed off, defeated, right?
Yeah.
And then over the few weeks he came in, he was training. He finally did it in like 3 tries. I gave him his stripe, and you could just see the light in his eyes. Right?
He earned
that
it.
That was amazing.
He knew the goal. He
Yeah.
earned it. Yeah.
And it really actually, it kind of hurts my heart because now we're on a new cycle, and we're doing a new kick. And he broke this board with this kick in like 2 tries now. And he thought that I broke the board for him. He thought that I like tweaked the board with my hands and broke it. I can't break those boards with just my hands. I mean, I'd like to think I'm a strong dude, but I'm not that strong. Right. So when he broke it and he's like, no, I didn't break it. You broke it. Like, that hurt my heart. I was like, dude, you don't even believe in yourself. Like, you did that. Like, how do I prove to you that you did it?
Here,
right?
someone else come hold this board.
Yeah.
Right?
And I know if this kid sticks with it, like, he's going to start to see, like, his body is growing, whether he thinks it is or not.
Yeah.
Like, just with his training, right?
Yeah.
So, to me, the most fulfilling part is seeing people overcome these obstacles in their mental challenges, right? Like when the adults train and they gain more flexibility, or they're able to do a skill that they once thought they weren't able to do, right?
Yeah.
Part of the drill I do in my very first lesson, our introductory lesson, I ask the students, I say, all right, now with your hand, show me how high you think you can kick. In your mind, what do you believe you can reach? What level? And they hold their hand about chest level, shoulder level. And I say, well, that's pretty good, right? That's like a brown belt level. But black belts, they know how to kick this high. And I hold the pad like way above their head. And I said, today you're going to learn how to kick like a black belt. And they look at me like, what? No, I can't do that. And then I teach them, and we start doing the drill, and I hold the pad really low, and they hit it. And then we all celebrate, we cheer. I hold it a little higher. They hit it, we cheer. I hold it higher, 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 and higher. And then at the end of the drill, I said, hey, that was great. Now have a seat, and we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about it. And I say, did you see what just happened? And they kind of look puzzled. And I said, I'm going to tell you what happened. At the beginning of this drill, Mom and Dad, your child told me that they believed they can only do this much. But they actually did so much more. Did you see that? And they say, yeah, we saw that. I said, exactly. That's my job as a coach, just like your job as a parent. We're going to help this kid achieve things greater than their mind ever thought was possible. So if you have the right people in your corner, they're going to push you past your mental limitations, right? And watching the kids, even on their first day, watching that switch in their mind go off, like, wow, I can do more. That's the most fulfilling part, is watching people overcome those mental limitations.
You know what's crazy about hearing that story? It's like how many adults have something of the same caliber, and they don't realize it.
Oh, the adults are the worst. I'm just going to call them out right now. Those adults, they say, yeah, my kid needs help on self-esteem. Well, you do too, right? The adults are like, well, I thought about martial arts, but they have this fear of looking goofy. And I'm not going to lie, you are going to feel goofy the first time you get in that uniform, the first time you raise your leg a certain way or you stretch a certain way, because you're not used to moving that way. You're not used to using your body that way, so you're going to feel awkward, right? But once you get over that awkwardness and over that mental block, yeah, man, it's really cool to even see the adults get out there.
Well, I'm not even just talking about with martial arts. I'm talking about with like life. I mean, how many people would be amazing at something, but they never try it because they're terrified of how they're going to look being new at something. You know what I mean? Like,
fear has killed more dreams than failure ever will.
Right.
You just got to get over that fear, man. Go do
dude,
it.
it took me so long to start jiu-jitsu because I was like, I knew I was going to someday, but it was like there was no time on that goal. And it was one of those things, like if my wife hadn't just signed me up for your guys' free class, I don't know if I would ever started. But now I'm like, man, I wish I started 2.5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, you can only start when you start. And same thing with the podcast. Like there was like a solid 6 months that we had recorded the podcast before I ever posted the first one. And I was nitpicking it apart. I thought it was never going to be perfect. And then I was like, wait, like there's just put it out there, let it be what it is, and just keep rolling with it. And, you know, if I waited for it to be perfect to start, I would never start. And that's literally what I tell myself. And excuse my language if there's anybody listening that doesn't want to hear this, but my mentality of fuck it was like really at high whenever I had to do anything that seemed very difficult, because it was like, honestly, that was like in my mind, I was just like, it just is what it is, and you're just gonna have to get through it, and take whatever ridicule it is and let it roll off your back, because at least you're out there trying. And my podcast, like when you came in and saw the podcast studio, you're like, wow, this is like really professional. And to me, this doesn't feel very professional. But to somebody who might not have a pod, like I only see it from my perspective, because I was there at the first time we recorded a podcast, and it's definitely come a long way. But I am my own worst critic, and I see it, and I'm like, here's all the things I want to do. Here's like, I'm a perfectionist to a fault, and I see all the things that I want to get done, all the things I want to do, and I'm like, it's going to happen when it happens, and there's just no such thing as perfect. You just a little bit at a time, add a little bit of water, one drop at a time to the bucket until it becomes a bucket full of water. And too many adults, they perpetuate that same thing. They get into a job they hate, and they buy things they can't afford to impress people they don't like, and they just get depressed, and they end up living their lives through their kids, and they put all their problems into their kid, and then they put unrealistic expectations on their kids, while they're also basically doing to their kids what they did, or what they do with their lives. They're basically forcing it onto their kids, and I don't know, it's just this bad cycle that goes into a lot of kids these days, and it's hard to break that family tradition of like this is what I grew up eating, this is what you're going to grow up eating, and the next thing you know, all your family's got diabetes because you guys all ate the same. You know what I mean? So it's hard changing out of your normal routine.
I like the part where you said, I wish I would have started years ago. That reminds me of another quote. I got all the quotes, man.
Yeah, I'm a quote guy too, man.
So many quotes.
We're going to be the most annoying podcast of all time with all the quotes.
They say the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now.
Right.
Right. Like, so instead of waiting, just take action, because it'll happen.
Right.
Just get started. Like a lot of people, they come to class, they do a move, and they say, oh, well, I wish I was better. I wish I would progress faster. And I say, hey, listen, man, you're doing more than the guys who are sitting at home on the couch.
Wishing.
Yeah.
The guys at home are wishing they'd start.
You told me the story of that 600-pound guy who was literally just sitting on the couch moving. So I guess I can't use that quote anymore.
Well, it's also very...
You're doing more than the people sitting at home on the couch.
Really?
That guy started on his couch. Do something.
Yeah, man. I mean, jiu-jitsu's... It's going to be a long journey, I can tell you that. But I love it, and for I realize it's going to be a long time, and it's just something you have to be consistent with. Same thing if this podcast ever becomes a mainstream podcast, it's going to be a long time before it ever becomes that. And if my goal of success is only how successful or how many people listen to this podcast, then I'm never going to love doing this podcast until it's that. Like, I can't set that goal in my mind for the podcast. I have to enjoy what I'm doing and make it sustainable. I mean that's what habits are. I mean, essentially your habits are who you become.
I agree.
And so in order to make those habits, you have to make it something that it's just unconscious, something that's you're just like, this is just what I do. Like have you ever read the book Atomic Habits?
I actually have it on my shelf at home. I have not read it yet. No.
He talks about that. He talks about like how people who have the hardest time quitting like smoking cigarettes are people who identify as smokers. Mm-hmm. And likewise, the people who who have healthy habits, who plan on keeping those habits for a long time, identify as being those healthy habits. Like people who drink a lot of water, like, oh, I'm a water drinker. I go to a restaurant, I order water, I drink water. Like, that's, I always got my cup of water with me, kind of thing like that. That's who they are. So like for me, like, do I feel like a podcaster? I guess I'm like, no, because I don't have, like, I don't make income from the podcast. I don't do, I don't do other people's shows because I've never been invited on any other people's shows. Like, but I feel like I'm a podcaster because I have one and I do that. So it's like, I identify as this because then it makes it easier for me to be like, yeah, I run a podcast. It's just what I am. If people want to make it, that was another thing too, like you said, doing the martial art thing. When people start a martial art, they feel like they're going to get ridiculed and made fun of. And people don't like that. they feel like they're going to get bullied for it. I felt like when I started the podcast, I was going to tell people I have a podcast and be like, this guy, like, oh my God, what do you think, you Joe Rogan? And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, you get fears like that, and then nobody said that to me. It was just an inner fear of my own. And same thing with jiu-jitsu. I was going to start jiu-jitsu, and I would feel like people were going to make fun of me for doing a martial art. And then I'm like, no, really, no one's made fun of me. In fact, the only thing that people have made fun of me with about jiu-jitsu is that I talk about it too much. But that's because I love it. I also don't have many other hobbies. I really have jiu-jitsu, like truck stuff, hunting and podcasts. Those are like the things I do, and cooking, I guess. But, like those are the things I love. So those are what I'm going to talk about.
Right. Actually, last month, I think you were at my house and we were talking about, just loving the process. And you had asked me, you're like, if you weren't doing what you were doing right now for work, like what would you do as a hobby? And my answer was still martial arts, right?
Yeah.
That's just what I like to do. So I think falling in love with the process of not just getting the belt ranks and getting the stripes and everything, but just loving the learning process, right? Like for you with the podcasting thing, like that's what you enjoy, right? So like if you're not doing it for money, like you just enjoy it, right?
Right. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Oh, for sure, right?
Yeah.
That's a very cliche saying, right? Like everybody says that, but when I quit my job in Orlando, running that company and running that school, what did I do when I wasn't working? I went to training. I signed up at a gym. I was doing BJJ, boxing, Muay Thai, judo, right? Because I love learning.
Yeah.
I like being a student just as much as I love teaching the martial art. To me, it's my hobby. It's what I like to do.
Yeah, and dude, it's an addiction, especially with jiu-jitsu. Like, but see, I can understand striking, Muay Thai, boxing, all that stuff. It's like you start and you get humbled, and then you're like, wow, I want to be as good as that person one day. Like Andrew, the guy who teaches our jiu-jitsu class. Mm-hmm. Like, first time I like to be like, every dude has an overinflated ego, mm-hmm. right? And it's just what dudes have. You're like, bro, I just see red and bodies start hitting the ground. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. and then you see somebody like Andrew who's like so calm. Like he's soft spoken. You know what I mean? Like he's so calm. And then you like. I rolled with him, and jiu-jitsu is like rolling is basically like sparring, right? And so like I rolled with him, and like I'm bigger than Andrew, I'm heavier than Andrew. Same thing with you. I'm bigger than you, I'm heavier than you, and both you guys just made me feel like I was a little kid playing with their dads. Like it was just like I got thrown around, you know what I mean? And like to be a bigger dude and to like have that happen to you, it's so like demoralizing. But there's two ways to. I had actually talked about this earlier on the podcast I did this morning, but there's two ways to respond to that. You either fall like I don't ever want to feel that again, or I want to make sure I don't. I guess it's really you. I don't want to feel that again, and they either do what it takes to not feel that again, or they avoid it completely. Mm-hmm. So I took the path of I'm gonna keep getting my ass beat until I'm the one beating ass. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of guys who walk in there that are big, right? They're jacked, they got the muscles, and they go to the gym, they work out, right? And then I think their egos get hurt. And after that first free class, I'm like, hey, so what do you think? You didn't come back and train with us again? And they're like, well, I got to talk to my wife. I got to check some things out.
Budget.
The budget. Like, I was like, don't let your ego get hurt, man. Like, I know you got tapped out about 8 times in a 5-minute round, but come on back and you'll learn, right? Like,
I mean, really, you're just trying to slow down the rate in which you get beat up. I mean, that's what I tell people. That's what I told my wife when we went to an open mat, and there's purple belts, brown belts, blue belt, everyone who's better than us at jiu-jitsu. And she's like, I literally, there was like 4 times in a row I went, like 4 weekends in a row, and I was like, I haven't gotten a single tap in 4 weeks. And she's like, why do you go? And I was like, cause I'm slowing down the rate in which they're tapping me out, because I'm learning to defend these moves, when I first started, anytime I'd roll with you, it was just like it was, I don't know, man. It was like getting murdered. You know what I mean? Like I just lay on the ground. I'm just like, oh, here comes this ass beating. And then it would just get tore up. And then like now to the point where like, we're pretty competitive when we roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
man, I remember the first time you tapped me out. Like you got me in, what was that? A head and arm choke?
Head and arm choke, yeah.
You got me that position many times before. So you put me in it and I was like, all right, well, I've been here before. Like this is good. I'm just going to get out of it, whatever. And then at one moment it was much tighter than it had ever been before. And I was like, uh-oh. I might be in trouble. And then I found out. I was like, I can't let Ryan
He
put
learned
me in those
something.
anymore.
Yeah, he learned something between the last time he did this and
Yeah.
this time. Yep.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Yep. Yep. And then ever since then, our defense for that's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Because of learning head and arm chokes and having people do them to me and me doing them to other people, like I now know the escape for it. And anytime I'm rolling with somebody I've never rolled with before who's much better than me, I can feel them start to set it up, and I'm like, nope, and I like squeeze my arm out and stuff. But yeah, man, I wish everybody would try a martial art because I like what I get from martial
For sure.
arts. I feel like the bully situation, you would get rid of so many bullies if people knew how to defend themselves. You know, I mean that goes back to like if you. Like the gun argument in the country is like if everyone's got a gun, everyone leaves each other alone, you know? And I
don't even think it's like learning how to defend yourself in a physical sense, right? Like in martial arts, or at least at our school, we have the 6 pillars of life we teach, which are discipline, respect, self-esteem, honesty, belief, and communication. The one I'll hit on right now is communication, right? So like in our system or in our school, we teach 4 levels of communication: the way you look, the way you listen, the way you talk, or the way you sound, and the way you lead, right? So if you practice the way you look and the way you sound, right? So like if somebody's messing with you and you step back with a strong, confident posture and the facial expressions and you say, stop, don't touch me, right? And it's believable, I think you can avoid a confrontation altogether, right? But when the kids don't have that kind of confidence to stand up for themselves, then yeah, they get picked on, right? Whether it's verbally or even physically, right? So you were talking about self-defense. Yeah, I think being able to throw hands and feet or take somebody down and wrap them up and control them and make somebody submit, like that's all great. But I think we could take that a step farther, right? Like with our program, I'll do my shameless plug here and throw in freedom martial arts. But with our program, right, like if we could just teach people to communicate a little bit better, I think we'd be
you avoid
much better off.
90% of any bad situations to begin with.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like going back to the honesty thing, it's like too many people in uncomfortable situations won't be honest about how they're feeling. And like one of the things I am to almost a fault is blunt. And you know, I've probably had many of managers or bosses back in the day that you know, they I don't know about you, but you see sometimes there's people that are like circle talkers. They like softly say something, and I'm like, no, I'll tell you the hard reality of what it is I need to say. And if you don't like how that feels, then there's nothing I can do about how that feels for you.
Just gotta disoffend yourself.
Yeah, right. And I get that from my grandparents because I spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up, and my grandfather was in the military. He ain't got time for none of that shit. You know what I mean? He doesn't have time to
Nobody
sugarcoat.
got time for that.
He doesn't have time to sugarcoat anything. This is how I feel. If you don't like it, then that is what it is. And I'm glad I learned that at a young age because too many people don't learn that. They don't learn that. I mean, I grew up in a way where like I had to have tough conversations with people. And so too many people they grow up in like a cushioned, nerfed up world. You know what I mean? Everything's rounded edges and, you know, cushioned. And luckily I did not grow up that way. So, but I feel like a lot of kids grow up that way. And so when they get into the real world with like other kids and, you know, those kids are having rough home lives or, you know, they're just looking for any way to feel validated in their shitty beliefs. You know, that's when bullying starts to really happen. It's typically not the person who has the best home life who's doing the bullying, and the people who are the ones being bullied, those are the ones who, like, you know, they have their whole life cushioned from them, and now they're getting a hard dose of reality kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they need to learn how to perceive things, right? Like, what's that quote that life is 10% about what happens to you, 90% about how you react to it, right? Yeah. You got to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? Get into situations. And
embrace the suck. There's a sign behind Nick that says embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, that's really what it is, man. Because, I mean, life is going to suck. You just have to know how you handle it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah, that's really it. Too many people, they just seek comfort in their life. And if you only seek comfort, you're only going to feel discomfort. And I try to. This isn't always a thing, but I try to always to go for the opposite of that. I try and seek uncomfort so that way whenever I'm not seeking uncomfort, everything's comfortable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like when I go hunting, I explain this to people a lot too. It's one of those things that when you're done hunting, you don't realize how good of a weekend you had hunting until you get home and take a shower. Because once you take a shower and you like get comfortable, you're like, oh my God, a shower's never felt so good in your life. And like, we leave typically on Fridays after work. We drive 4 hours to our hunt camp up in North Florida. And, by the time we get there, it's 11:30 midnight. We wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning to go hunting. So you're getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. You just had a long car ride. Long car rides, you gotta get out and stretch your legs. But as soon as you stretch your legs, you gotta start like getting your your bed and stuff together to like go to sleep. And then you wake up the next day. You don't shower. There's barely electricity where we are. There's no power lines or anything like that. Everything's battery powered and or generator ran. And you wake up on a bed that's been sitting in the woods for months and lives out in the woods. You smell like the woods. You dress in camo. You walk out in the woods and you get like dirt on you. You don't get the luxuries of life. And it's tough. And then you get out there and you hunt and you have a good time and you do a lot of hard work. We do a lot of like maintenance between our morning hunt and our afternoon hunt, and we'll do like maintenance on the property or build anything we have to do, work on anything we have to get done. I mean, you get exhausted, especially during the summertime. You're like drenched in sweat. There's bugs everywhere. Like, I don't know. This description probably doesn't make people get very excited about hunting.
Yeah, you're not selling it.
Right. But because it is a difficult thing for people to do, but it makes you enjoy the fun moments when you're hunting. Like when you get home when you get back to the camp at the end of the night and the lights are off and you get to eat like a hot meal and you get to like sit around and it's dark outside, you can see the stars and you're all just like sitting, relaxing. You could go to bed, but you're also just enjoying the camaraderie of sitting around with a bunch of people and just shooting the shit and having a drink or two and hanging out. Dude, it's the best time ever. And then you wake up the next morning exhausted again. You go back and you get in the tree stand and take a nap when you're supposed to be hunting. And I don't know, man. It's like a forced struggle. And I don't know, man. Like too many people, they seek comfort in their lives and then they only feel struggle, and struggle feels so much harder. And if you don't experience struggle, like it's harder to enjoy life if you don't put struggle in your life, because there's one thing's for certain in life, there will be struggle.
Right, you got to experience the lows before you can enjoy the highs.
Exactly.
It's kind of like as you were talking about that, I had something else going through my mind and now I can't remember what it was.
Welcome to podcasting, because that's how most of my day has been.
I'll think about it.
Well, martial arts is like that though. Like, to think that anybody who's better than you at martial arts, it's just somebody who has taken more ass beatings than you. I mean, essentially what it's been. They just, like you said, they just keep going to class. They keep clocking. They keep hitting that clock.
I remember what it was now.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, life is hard, right? But you got to choose your hard, right? So like going to work, waking up every day and like, doing the daily grind, that's hard. But then paying the bills is easy, right? Or you can choose to take it easy on like going to work, having that discipline, whatever, doing what you got to do, but then paying the bills is going to be hard.
Yeah, if you do what you want, yeah.
Yeah, you got to choose your hard, right? So you can choose that discipline or, like we talked about the book, right? David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, right? You just got to have that mindset, like just that mental fortitude. Yeah.
And too many people, like, they just don't do it. I mean, so many parents, I mean, their life is misery because they hate their job. They've got to pay the car payment because they decided to buy a car that they outstretched their budget for, and they just do all these things and all these little things that in the moments they don't feel like it's anything but good, and then they end up getting like insurmountable debt and making these payments, and then now their kid wants to do karate and like. Right. They're going to struggle to make all those payments, and they're living paycheck to paycheck.
I mean, there's definitely different ways to skin the cat, right? Like, there's not one way that's the right way to do it, but I don't know. I just follow the teachings of people before me. My personal story and my beliefs, like, I don't finance anything.
Right.
Like I said, when I was 15, I had my own martial arts school. When I was 18, I thought I was like big dog on campus. I was awesome. I was making a good paycheck, or at least in my mind, I thought I was making a good paycheck.
Comparative to everyone around you, probably.
Yeah, at 18 years old, right? Like I had my own car, I had a truck, I had a bike, I had all these vehicles. I was like, all right, this is cool. I'm awesome. I remember when I bought my truck, I had gone to my instructor's school. It was like a Tuesday night. It was sparring night after class. I was like, hey, Master Gehring, like, you got to come outside. You got gotta see my new toy that I bought. I was so proud of myself. I bought this truck. It was only like 2 model years older, so it wasn't brand new. It was like just off a lease, but to me it was brand new.
Yeah.
It only had a few miles on it. It was a beautiful truck. And so he walks out into the parking lot. He's like, "Which one is it?" And I pointed. I was like, "It's that one over there." And he looks at me. He's like, "That's the stupidest thing you've ever done." And he walked back inside. And to me, like this is my mentor, right?
He just,
like, this is
he just
who I
shit
look
on your
up to.
chest.
Yeah. I was like, "Come on, man." I was like, so I followed him back inside. I was like, "No, for real. Like, come see, what I've done. Like, look at what I bought." He's like, "Nah, man, that's stupid." He's like, "Listen, I'm going to explain something to you." He's like, over this next 2 months, it was like a belt testing cycle. He's like, "I want you to go home, listen to this dude's podcast, read his website, read his books." This is the whole Dave Ramsey theory. He's like, "And then come back to me and tell me what you learned." So also during this 2-month period, I had a friend of mine. I was 18. He was 17. At 17 years old, he was doing pretty well for himself. He bought himself a Porsche. And the one day I showed up to his house and the Porsche was gone. And he had a Honda Civic. And I was like, "Luke, where's the Porsche, man?
Yeah.
What'd you do with the Porsche?" He's like, "Oh, no, I sold it." He's like, "I bought the Civic." I was like, "What?" Like, my mind couldn't.
Yeah.
I was like, "What are you doing? Like, the Porsche, you're going to get girls with this nice car, and, like, now you got a Honda Civic. What are you doing, man?" He's like, "No, look." He's like, "If you just take that monthly payment, not counting insurance or gas or anything else, just that monthly payment, if you invest it every month over the course of 40 years, he pulled up a calculator. If you go on the website, it's called dinkytown.net. Sounds very goofy, but it's dinkytown.net. They have all these different calculators, and you can run like a compound interest calculator over these 40 years. That comes out to be like 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And at that moment, my mind was blown. I was like, all right, listen, if I can just make payments to myself and put it in retirement every month for the next 40 years, from 18 years old to, what is that, 28, 38, 40, 58. Like, I can retire before I'm 60 and have over $1 million in my account. I was like, that's awesome. So from that point forward, my mind was made. Like, I switched everything over. I sold the truck, paid off the bike, and never looked back, never financed anything again.
Yeah.
I opened the business with cash in my account, and it's been an awesome ride, right? Like, when COVID hit and people were freaking out because they were going to lose their jobs and they didn't have...
You're opening up your new business.
Yeah, like, they're like, how do I do this, right? The company I was working for at the time, like, they were asking people, like, what's the minimum you could work for, right? Like, we have to cover our own asses and everything. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, like, I could work for zero. Like, I'm fine. I got money in my account. Like, I can pay my bills. I'm okay. I'm good. Right? Like, and it was just such a relief to be able to live life like that and not worry.
Dude, financial freedom, if they sold it as a drug, it would be abused heavily. And
I'm not saying that debt-free is the way, right? Like, I'm not saying that I know better than anybody else, because leveraging your credit and everything, like, there's positives to that, but there's pros and cons. And I'm just saying what works for me is the whole financing anything.
Too many people overcomplicate their finances. Mm-hmm. And I really like the old school mentality of, like, if you can't buy it, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
If you have to make payments on it, you can't afford it. So, I mean, obviously houses are different because of housing is been more normalized. But going back to the vehicle thing, because vehicle things are a very touchy subject, because there's a lot of people that, like, subscribe to, like, Dave Ramsey's, like, plan of, like, being debt free and everything, but they don't subscribe to, like, his vehicle thing. They're like, oh, well, I believe vehicle debt is normalized. I've heard that from people that listen to Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that too, why they would feel that way. But here's how I look at vehicles. Have you ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
That's another one on my shelf that I haven't read.
All right.
I haven't,
great book.
But I haven't read it.
One of the things he talks about is like depreciation and, like, what the vehicle does. So most people, let's say they buy a brand new vehicle, it depreciates in value as soon as it drives off the lot by a lot. I mean, if the fact that there's something called gap insurance that is sold, which is like how much the vehicle is worth, like if the vehicle gets totaled versus how much is owed on the loan, and there's something to cover that gap. Like, the fact that there's an insurance for that's insane to me. Mm-hmm. But so the vehicle goes down in value, but when the vehicle goes down in value, doesn't mean that you don't own, like, you still owe the amount that you bought it for. Like, it's a depreciating asset. It doesn't do anything for you besides move you to point A to point B. Like, I mean, you've seen my old truck, and, like, I was telling my wife yesterday, I'm like, this truck is 22 years old, and it does almost all the exact same things that a truck of 2023 does. No, does it have all of the little bells and whistles? I'm like, no, but it's got the big ones. It's got heated seats, power windows, power mirrors, like it's like AC, heat. Like, I mean, it's electric seats on both the driver and passenger. Like, it's got all these things, and I'm like, what's the difference between that and a brand new one? Besides, a brand new one's $80,000, and this one was like, less than $10,000. Now I don't have a payment. I mean, most people are financing vehicles for like 6 to 7 years. Like, that's insane to have a $500 to $600 a month payment. I don't know, man.
$500 to $600 a month is cheap. Even I think nowadays they're
It
up
is.
to what, like $1,000, $1,200.
The average new car payment is like over $700 a month.
That's crazy.
That's insane, right? For somebody like yourself and me who have no car payments, like, I can't even imagine that. My monthly insurance payment is cheaper than most people's individual car payment, and that's collectively for all three of our vehicles.
Yeah, the car that I have right now is actually the nicest car that I've ever owned. And it's not even like a luxury car.
Right.
It's a 2017 Nissan Altima.
Right, yeah. And you're probably like happy about it.
The car that I had before this, there was a big dent inside of it. None of my rims matched. The two side mirrors didn't match. Like, yeah, but it got me to where I needed to go,
Yeah.
I did kind of fall into the keeping up with the Joneses. I'm a realtor as well. Everybody's a realtor. But pulling up to like a
Working on getting my
$1.8
real
million
estate.
house, I can't pull up with a car that's got like not matching rims. So I was like, all right, I'll spend a little bit of money on this car, but it was really cool being able to just pay that in cash, right? Like, it is a nice car. It's that pearl white finish. It's got the tan leather interior with like the white ivory inlays, and got all the bells and whistles.
It's nice to have nice things, but like Dave Ramsey said, it's not nice when the nice things have you. And they have a portion of your paycheck for a long period of time.
I like that. It's nice to have nice things, but it's not nice
if the nice things have you.
The nice things have you.
Yeah. And that's essentially what payments are. And like, dude, I don't know. Like, I just don't. I don't know how people can live paycheck to paycheck and not be scared shitless. As somebody,
I think it's just
it's normalized.
People aren't willing to make that sacrifice. Like I get it. You work hard, right? Like, you go to work every day and you do what you got to do, and you think you deserve the nice car, so you finance it and make the payments. But sometimes you just gotta be willing to have that humility and admit, like, hey, listen, if I can't afford the car, I don't get a car. I'm gonna walk to work or take the public transportation until you can save up and buy a $2,000 beater. And then just work your way up from there, right?
Well, and most people have a problem with downgrading their lifestyle. They get into that normal cycle of life, and then some bald dude on the internet who has a country accent says, you need to sell that and drive a hoopty. You know what I mean? It freaks them out, and they're like, I'll do everything else. I learned the Dave Ramsey stuff as I was losing weight. So it made it that much easier because I already had like a majority of my life like flipped up on its head. You know what I mean? Like, typically it's easy to do both of those things: change your finances and your health at the same time, because you're those two things they kind of come down to the same thing. And so it just all made sense to me. I learned good health philosophy at the same time I learned good money philosophy. And if I'm changing one, might as well change them both. Why not? Chaos, whatever.
Yeah, you had a pretty drastic change in your life too, right? How much weight did you lose?
It's like 70 plus pounds.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. It's crazy. It still feels weird. It still feels weird.
And like once you got into that habit, it was just kind of easier to stick with that habit, right?
Yeah. Well,
what was like the hardest part of getting started with that? What was the one thing that you changed, and once that changed, like, then it started flowing for you?
Probably the thought. It was probably more the thought of like you need to get out of your own head and realize that your way has gotten you to where you are. Someone else's way is going to get you where they are. And that kind of, like, to put it into perspective, Cody, my next door neighbor and my best friend, he was also a big dude. He was probably 260, 265, 270. Like, we were both basically the same weight. He's only a little bit taller than me, but we were both like heavy set dudes. And all of a sudden, like, I hadn't seen him in 6 months or whatever, and next thing you know, he's down to like 200 pounds. and like 210, 210 pounds. And he lost a ton of weight too. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, man. Like, you know, we live in a society where we go, you know, what pill did you take? What, you know, drink did you drink to make you that way? Like, what's the quick, easy way to do that? Mm-hmm. And the hard pill to swallow when that happened was like there is not an easy way. The only way is the hard way, and it sucks, but it's worth it. And that is where it really happened. So him and I started going to the gym together, and it was out of the way for him. It was close to my house, but it was out of the way for him, and I still am incredibly thankful he went there with me, but he would meet me there after work. No matter, every day of the week, him meeting me there kept me accountable to go. Mm-hmm. And we went 4 or 5 days a week, and it just days I didn't want to be there, I was there. Days that I did want to go, I was there. And, you know, days that I was bored, I was there. Like, I just went to the gym all the time. And even if I just showed up and did 10 minutes of something, it's better than doing nothing. So, and I just listened to him. Whenever he would tell me something, I'd fight him tooth and nail on it too. Like, I remember one of the biggest things is he said, do you drink coffee? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, how do you drink your coffee? I was like, cream and sugar. And he goes, drink it black or don't drink it at all. And he was blunt as hell with it. He literally said it just like that. Drink it black or don't drink it at all. And I was like, well, then I'll just won't drink it. And he goes, okay, good. Do that then. And I literally was like trying to call his bluff. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, well, I'll do anything else. I don't want to change how I drink my coffee. And he was like he just let me do that. And he's like, you're going to figure it out that you're either going to drink it black or not drink it at all. And I remember I heard him say that, and I was like, why was he so that way about it? I'm like, it's got to be a reason, you know? And I remember we ran out of creamer at our house, and I didn't have any plans to go to the grocery store. It was like that, you know, the Monday morning, and I was like, I got to go to work. And I went to make my coffee. I was like, dang, we only have sugar. And I put sugar in the coffee with no cream. And I was like, this is like awful. Like, this is like drinking like acid with sugar in it. You know what I mean? And I remember like driving to work today, and I was like, well, if I've ever had a reason to start drinking it black, because I remember my grandfather drinks his coffee black, and he goes, you just get used to it. You just do it for long enough. Like he did it in the military. They didn't have an option of sugar and cream in the military. Mm-hmm. If you didn't want coffee, you drink it black. You didn't drink it at all. And so I forced myself to start drinking it black. And I realized that the hardest part of drinking coffee black was the first sip, when you have like a weird way to put this, but like a neutral flavor in your mouth, and then you add black coffee to it. It's like bitter and like, it's like, ugh. But I would drink it on my way to work. I had a long, you know, probably like a 40-minute drive to work every day, to and from, and I would drink my coffee on the way there. And I just got to the point where like I was so used to it, and then I gave it like 3 months, and I think then I tried it with sugar and cream again, and I was like, "Ooh, this is like this doesn't taste like coffee anymore."
Yeah.
And it just became like a normal thing.
So having that kind of discipline and routine and consistency was probably the biggest change for you. Right?
Yeah, and just giving up the idea that, I mean, in order to have change in your life, you have to change things. Mm-hmm. You have to change. If you want drastic change in your life, you have to make drastic changes to how you live your life. And
yeah, that's, I mean, kind of like at the school, right? The parents say, you know, what do we have to do to, you know, get to the next rank, the next belt? And in our system, you have to have 21 classes in the Taekwondo program to promote every cycle, which is 3 months, and 19 classes, 20 classes. It's cool. That's close, but it's not 21, right? Like our cycles typically are 12 weeks, so 3 months. Some of them are a little longer. Some of them are 13, 14 weeks. But if you do the math, only 2 classes a week, you'll hit your 21 classes every cycle. And if you miss a week, right, like life happens, you get sick or you go on vacation or whatever, then we just ask in the following week that you come to an extra class or 2 classes to make up the classes that you missed. So it's really not about the number of classes. It's really about the consistency in creating that habit and that routine, right? It's kind of like what I always tell the people is like having a gym membership, right? Like you get your gym membership and you say, yeah, I'm going to go 3 days a week. You say, all right, cool. What days are you going to go? And you say, well, I don't know. I'm just going to go 3 days a week whenever I can fit it in. You know, the first few weeks you go, and then after that it kind of dwindles down until you don't go at all, right? So it's really just about creating that routine. And that's kind of what I tell the parents at the school with the kids. Like, like 20 classes is close, but you need to have 21. It's really about building that consistency, because with consistency, you will see results, right? And so I like what you said there, right? My question was, what was the biggest change for you that really put things into effect and really started to see momentum? And it was really just about the consistency, right? Having that discipline. And
that's the easy, so if I had to boil it down to one word, probably consistency. Consistency of keep showing up, but it was also a discipline aspect of like it's consistent. I think discipline is a better word because it's consistency regardless of how you feel. Does that make sense?
They say that motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have that discipline to keep going.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I like what you're saying, because I even now, like, I lost all that weight, but still I get that. I understand what you're saying, where it's like I'm gonna go 3 days a week. Okay, what 3 days? Well, just when I can get it in, and I'm guilty of it still to this day, of having those issues. Of like I'm gonna try and work out 4 days a week. Okay, what 4 days? Just when I can fit it in. Life is too busy. It's like if I only wanted to train jujitsu when it was convenient, I would never train jujitsu. But because it's a regimented Mondays and Wednesdays at this time, like I'm either gonna be there, or I'm not gonna be there. Like it is what it is. Class is gonna happen with or without me. That's why so many people benefit from having a personal trainer. Is that person's gonna show up at that time, and if you're not there to meet them, they're still gonna be there, and you're gonna get paid for them. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And they need that.
Now you got skin in the game.
Right, exactly. And I try not to miss any jujitsu classes, because I'm like, I paid for this. This is prepaid. Like I put down the deposit. Money's there, dude. Like you've got your money. You don't care if I keep showing up. You want me to be there, obviously, but like.
Oh, I want you to be there. I want somebody to choke.
right. But you get what I'm saying. Like at the end of the day, you got yours. It's on me now to keep showing up. And
so that's actually how I got into running. I had a coach of mine in Orlando. Every Wednesday training, we'd start the first half an hour with a run. We'd do like a 5K, and I hated running.
Still do.
Somebody told me, they're like, hey, just you should do a Tough Mudder. And I was like, man, that sounds horrible. It was like, 10 miles, like 35 obstacles or whatever. And I was like, that sounds terrible. But I've always like dreamed of doing the military obstacle course. Like that looks fun. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll look into it. I'll do it. So I think I paid like the $150 or $170 or whatever it was to do it. And I knew it was coming up, and I was like, I really don't want to do this run, but I had already paid for it. So like that motivated me. So I went out and ran, and then I started asking people. I was like, hey, how do you get into running? How do you keep it fun, right? And then somebody like told me, well, one day you run for distance, another day you run for time, another day you run for speed, another day you run for heart rate, right? So like there's different ways you can gauge your running, and it keeps it a little more active, a little more fun. You set yourself goals and challenges, just like I talked about setting goals. And then I started getting into it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of fun, right? Like I can set like last week I did, a certain time. This week I'm going to beat that time, right? And then it became fun for me. And then I did my first Tough Mudder, and afterwards I felt great. I was like, wow, this is fun. So then that's how I got into running, right? Just staying consistent, setting myself a goal, and like you said, putting skin in the game. So I put money on the line, and I was like, all right, well, I already paid. I can't get out of it now.
Yeah. Dude, it's running is one of those. It's so going back to my weight loss story, if you want to hear more about it, we used to do when we first got to the gym. Cody and I. Cody could now run like he was running like 2 miles every time he went to the gym with the other.
This
buddy.
Is your big friend, right?
Cody, yeah.
He runs.
Yeah. Now he does. Yeah, he's
Sweet.
He's not heavy anymore. He's like 200 pounds. Well, for him that's not heavy. He's 6'2", but.
That's still a big dude to be moving.
Yes. Yeah, he's not a light-framed guy. But we used to do a 3-minute warm-up jog. He jogged, and I would walk for 3 minutes when I was at my heaviest. And I remember there was one time, it was like a 5.0 pace on a treadmill, which is like a very slow, I mean, that's I think that's a 10-minute mile. Or no, that's like a 12-minute mile.
I think that's longer.
That's like a 12-minute mile. It's like a very
5.0 is like a fast walk.
Yeah. You can almost walk it very briskly. Yeah, and I remember I was gassed at the end of 3 minutes, like I died. It was awful, And the motivation he used to always say to keep me running, because he was fine next to me and he was just watching this fat kid struggle. And he's like, keep going, because you're either gonna pass out, throw up, or die. He's like, and those are all easy to deal with. If you die, you don't have to worry about it anymore. If you pass out, you also don't have to worry about it anymore. And if you throw up, like, we'll deal with that when it needs to happen. Is you're either just gonna pass out, throw up, or die. And that's literally that advice is like, I don't know what it is, but that's gonna stick with me for forever. You're either gonna pass out, throw up, or die. So, once I started getting running, I still remember when I ran my whole first mile. I remember I grabbed the side of the treadmill at the as soon as it went from like 0.99 on the treadmill to 1, I grabbed both sides of the treadmill. I split my legs while the treadmill was still running. And I remember I hung my head down and just sucked in wind as hard as I could because I was dying. And that was like a 5.0 pace. Like, I was just dead. And he was like, he's fine next to me. He goes to like get the towel to like clean up the gym equipment and everything. And then he walks back over. And he's like, "You good?" And I'm just like, "I need a minute." And I'm just like I actually don't even know if I answered him. I'm pretty sure I just sat there and breathed. And he's like looking at me because he thinks I'm right. I'm knocking on the door, pass out, throw up, or die. At that moment. But I don't know. Once I had that, I was like, I'm never giving this up again. Once I was able to run, I'm like, I'm not going back. I've worked too hard to go back. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I'm just like, this is, my way of life. I've had friends that have lost weight sporadically and then gain even more back because they don't change their life. And the problem is with weight loss is you have to change your life. I mean, the old cliche of like, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle change. It truly is. And, I feel like getting good at martial arts, you have to become like a martial artist. You have to believe in your mind that you're a martial artist to get good at it,
I think to get good at martial arts, you just have to fall in love with the process of being a student and learning, right? Yeah. And like I said, goals are important, but not being so set on that next stripe or the next belt. Just have fun with the process, and the learning will come, right? Yeah. Knowledge will come, but fall in love with the process first.
I feel like a black belt in martial arts, a black belt is just a symbol of somebody who didn't quit.
Yep, a black belt's a white belt who never quit.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm a black belt and you're a white belt is because I failed many more times than most people have even tried.
Have you heard that Dave Ramsey had a quote he put on Instagram the other day, and I just loved it. He said that all success is standing on top of your failures instead of falling beneath them.
Yeah, that's a good one. I saw a meme on Facebook a few weeks ago. It had success, or it had failure in like a bunch of little blocks. And one guy was stacking his failures on top of his head and like living underneath them, like letting them keep him down. And then another guy just stacked them up in the form of like steps and climbed up them. Yeah. I thought that was pretty powerful, right? Like, the word fail, a lot of people put a negative connotation to the word fail. They see it as a bad thing. But again, in my martial arts training and my mental fortitude, right, I learned that the word fail just stands for the first attempt in learning.
Oh, that's dope.
Right? And the only L's we ever take in life are lessons, never losses. Yeah. Right? So you got to take those failures, you got to learn from them. So fail early, fail often, and just learn from them, just grow. Yeah. Right? Don't feel bad about it. And again, I think that's where that self-esteem and that confidence comes into play. You got to give yourself that mental freedom, right? Like, don't feel bad about failing. Some people get this weird... I don't know, they get weird about it, right? Like, they fail and they hide in their hole, or they feel bad about it. They try to, like, shy away from it. Instead, you just got to own it, right? Like, yeah, I failed. Oh, well, I'll try again and do better next time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hell of a journey. Martial arts is amazing. Now, do you want to talk about school a little bit more? Because I do have to start getting ready for something after this. But
no. I mean, that's about it.
Talk about freedom, man. So what kind of classes do you do? Where are you located? Kind of how can they come train with you? I'm sure you're going to be back on the podcast again because I would love to go for another 2 hours if I had the time to.
I mean, we're located in Valrico, right? Actually, right in the middle of everything. Brandon, Valrico, Bloomingdale, Fishhawk. We're on the corner of Bloomingdale Avenue and Lithia Pinecrest Road. We're in the same plaza as Crunch Fitness. We offer Taekwondo classes, Krav Maga, jujitsu. Start at ages 4 and up. We've got great programs for the Tigers. Those are kids ages 4 through 6. Our juniors are ages 7 through 12. And then we have our teen and adult Taekwondo program. That's ages 13 and up. And then we have our adults only Krav Maga. That's 16 and up. So in the martial arts world, 16 is considered an adult. and our BJJ class as well, which you train with us in. So
Yeah, so if anybody wants to come try and strangle me, twice a week, 3 times a week now?
yeah, this
or
guy
more.
beats everybody up, so you got to
Try.
come in and deal with him.
I don't know, man. The mentality I have when I go into class is just that I'm gonna probably get beat up and see new things, and just keep showing up, keep punching that clock.
You're either the cheese or the mouse.
Yeah, right.
The
The food hierarchy. Oh, you weren't there the other day. You missed the class. There was somebody new that started.
yeah.
And I had made Andrew give the speech. I made Andrew do the food chain speech. It was funny.
Yeah, that's a good speech. If
Yeah.
you don't know what we're talking about, then you're gonna have to come in and try it, and you'll learn about it.
If you ever come to the class new and try and come choke me out, you'll hear it at the end of class. So it's a great speech. Maybe Andrew will do it on the actual podcast when he comes on. But we'll have to do this again sometime. I'd love to have you and Andrew on. I have the equipment to have both you guys on at the same time. And
Yeah, you got enough equipment here. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun.
Well, thanks so much for doing this, Nick. And do you guys have social media and stuff too?
We do.
Tell them Freedom social media, dude.
At freedom-ma, Instagram, Facebook, it's all there.
Send your kids. Come do it as a family. All that stuff.
Tell your wife. Tell your kids.
Tell your
everybody
friends.
out there.
Dude, it's the most fun ever. It's what did I tell you? It's like doing heroin. When the first time I did jujitsu, I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna take a lot of this."
It's pretty addicting, man.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It's the weirdest thing is like the bruises. I've constantly got bruises everywhere, and I still I just can't get
But
it's
those are something you could be proud of, man. Those are your war stories.
Right.
Like,
Dude, everyone's got
Dude, look at this broken arm. Let me tell you how I got it.
It's like when the first time I got you in the head and arm choke. Like I'll just remember that forever. Like
It's a good feeling.
James, when I got James in a guillotine, I'll remember that forever. It was like my first legit submission on a blue belt. So, but thank you so much for doing this, Nick. I hate that I have to cut it short. I mean, I say short. We've been doing this for an hour and a half already.
Oh, it's been an hour and a half already.
Dude, it goes
I feel
by quick,
it's been
right?
15 minutes.
Goes by quick. It's easier now once you've been rolling through it a little bit and talking more. You start to get like a little bit more comfortable with it and everything. So, but thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we'll do this again, and I'll probably see you at choke class on Monday.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, everyone. Anywhere else. Any of the money that we get from the Patreon would be used to upgrade old equipment as well as get new gear so that we can make the best podcast for you to tune into. You can also follow the podcast Instagram at Somehow We're Adults, where I share clips and content about the podcast, and the link in the bio will take you to any of the Somehow We're Adults pages. I encourage you to check out another one of the episodes if this is your first time listening, and if you're a repeat listener, thank you for your support. I love making the podcast, and I hope you tune in for future episodes of Somehow We're Adults.